Kevin, thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure, Sophia. Thank you for having me. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
You know, I'm feeling fantastic. You know, living this crazy New York City dream, hustling and bustling, just taking it one day at a time.
That's good to hear. And thank you for asking how I am. Nobody actually asked that.
I know, trust me, as somebody who works professionally behind the camera, they forget about us sometimes. So I understand your struggles. I'm there with you.
All right, Kevin, so let's get into it. So a lot of people can actually check your website and actually see who you are. But before that, nobody really know who you are. Can you please tell this to us?
All right, so for those that don't know, maybe you've never checked my website out, my name is Kevin Talbot. I'm the founder of Talbot Media, which is a digital marketing agency designed to help brands share their stories, connect with their audience, and grow their presence online through brand strategy, content creation, and social media marketing. And since 2010, I've worked in various forms of media production, from producing documentaries to producing music videos, live television, live sporting events. And the one thing that I've come to learn across all of those different forms of media, marketing, is that story sells, right? And the brands that we love, the ones that we support, is because of the story, right? Like, I don't know, the story just does something to us. It draws us in. And since from a very young age, I realized I had a gift for storytelling. You know, like, I'm that friend that if we hang out, we have a good time, they're gonna be like, yo, y'all remember that night? Yo, Kev, tell the story. And I'm like, I told that story 20 times. They're like, no, but we just like how you tell the story. And, you know, from a young age, I realized that, you know, that feeling of bringing joy to others, or, you know, making them relive a memory or feel something, I always knew that whatever I wanted to do in my career was, I wanted to have that kind of feeling. I wanted to be able to spread that to people. And I don't know, I remember from a young age, I don't know why my mind always went there of just wanting to maybe do something in media, because as a kid from the Bronx, New York, I was like, how else would I be able to impact someone across the globe if I didn't work in media? And but even though I wanted to do that, you know, I still was kind of, you know, reserved, because I never really saw many people who looked like me doing what I wanted to do, especially being from the Bronx. And so I kind of always like buried that. And it really wasn't until, you know, I got to college, I went to undergrad at Pace University, was when I really said, you know, I think it's time for me to go pick up the camera and go do this. And originally I wanted to work in front of the camera. You know, I wanted to, you know, be an actor. But then as I started to study the craft and study the art form, I realized that you really got a chance to craft the story a lot more if you learned the inner workings behind the scenes of writing scripts, writing stories, how to coach and work with the actors, and then also editing. So that's kind of when I pivoted and I was like, you know what, I think I'm gonna go work behind the scenes. And, you know, once I graduated from college in 2011, you know, my career hasn't always been easy. You know, actually it took me maybe about 6 or 7 months to even find work once I graduated. But I always had this vision that one day, somehow, some way, I was gonna own my own business and work for myself. So, you know, it's been a wild ride these past 15 plus years, but, you know, I'm here now, and I still have a lot more work to do though.
So happy to hear. I'm really good that that's your story. Even you actually didn't see any inspiration back then, but you still did it yourself. What do you think is the one thing that pushed you to do it? Like, what is the one thing that you woke up and be like, you know what, this is the day I'm gonna like continue?
You know, it's fascinating, Sophia. I don't know if I could really say there was one day or one moment. You know, I always had this vision to one day get here, and despite the many setbacks, I just kept going. You know, for me, it was always just live to fight another day. You know, and many times in my career, it's been a lot of rejections, a lot of setbacks, but I don't know, I just held on to that hope that one day, that if I kept going, maybe the next day, the next opportunity could be the breakthrough. And then that's how I strung together a lot of wins. You know, when I first started my career, I started producing music videos. And as a kid from the Bronx, it's like, you know, you grow up, you have some friends who are artists and musicians. And, you know, when the work wasn't there, I said, you know what? Let's go shoot a music video. So I gathered some friends, we went outside, we shot a music video, and then ended up writing an article about it in the Source magazine. Then I shot another music video. Then they wrote another article about it in the Vibe magazine. And from there I was like, okay, I think I might be onto something here. I mean, clearly people like the work. And then from there I started working with actors, and I actually produced a short film and a short series that actually did okay in a couple film festivals. So just stringing these moments together, I keep saying like, you know what, I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep saying yes to the next thing, and who knows where it's gonna take me. You know, I just put together a number of little wins over my 15 plus years.
Like you said, you just started to do production only, or did you do any jobs first before you actually start doing production? Can you share us that? How did you manage to do 2 lives? Because, you know, from paycheck to paycheck, then actually like pursuing your dreams. Can you share us like what you did?
Yeah, actually, you know, I didn't just jump out the window and become an entrepreneur overnight. You know, actually, you know, I did work a number of jobs. The first job that I got actually wasn't even directly related to anything in media at all. I was actually a marketing director for a catering company. And you know, in that role, even though it was marketing, I was always still wanting to use my skill of video production. Unfortunately, 3 months after getting that job, I got laid off. Just one day I come into work, dressed nice, ready to do my job, and they were like, you know, we're gonna just cut this position. I'm like, you're director of marketing, you're getting ready to, you know what? Fine, it's okay. Got back out there, used my network, and actually a good buddy of mine who I went to college with, we played on the football team together in college, who was ahead of me. He was in the master's program, just graduated. And he said, you know, I'm working with this startup company. They're based out in Taiwan. It's an animation company that's looking to build up their American division, and he was leading it. So he brought me on as a video producer. Mostly doing man on the street, going out, trying to like talk to people in New York so we could cut together and make these segments. And very similar, after 3 months, one day they said, you know, things aren't really working out for us here in the States. We're actually going back to Taiwan. So was out of another job then. And then from there, my buddy and I, we still stayed together. He ended up becoming a lead producer at a New York magazine called New York Natives and brought me on again. And so once again, started as a video producer. I produced several series for that website, mostly like mini doc kind of series about stories of local New Yorkers. New Yorkers who were on the rise, building fashion businesses, who were comedians, who were dancers, all these things. And that one actually had a lot longer than 3 months. But after a year and a half, they said, you know what, Kevin, we see that you have such this entrepreneurial drive, because even while I was working these jobs, I was still taking side gigs. So if someone was like, hey, I'm launching a business, I need someone to shoot content for my brand. Okay, yes, I'll take it. So I'm going to work 10 to 6, those are the creative hours. We didn't do 9 to 5, we did 10 to 6. And then from like 6 to 10 or 6 to 12 at night, I'm still hustling, doing other things. So taking on other projects, going to workshops, learning from other entrepreneurs, learning about marketing, learning about these things. And then, you know, once we decided to part ways in 2015, I've been pretty much on my own since then. You know, there are some projects that I have that operate as jobs, but I don't consider them jobs because I use them to just fuel the longer purpose, which is, you know, building my own brand and things like that. So yeah, it's a bunch of little opportunities that I had to put together, and I didn't really just start out as an entrepreneur. I felt like I had this calling, but I didn't believe in myself enough. So I went and took the jobs. And you know how God works, the universe works, is sometimes when he has an assignment for you, he's gonna force you into that assignment one way or another. So after getting laid off from that third job, I was like, okay, I don't think the job thing is for me. Nothing against the job, but I just feel like the calling that he has for me is a lot higher. And he needs me to work some unconventional hours. I can't only work between 10 to 6. So, you know, I would say the last time I had a job was probably 2015, I think, 2016. Yeah.
So despite all the setbacks, you actually still continue, which is good. I think all the entrepreneurs I actually talk in camera and then out of the camera, is like everybody just keep doing their stuff. You know, nobody is just like, you know what, I don't want to do it, let me just continue working. Like I feel like everybody was actually doing the risk, you know, like considering to do the risk despite of whatever's the outcome is. Like you never know you're gonna be here, you never know what's gonna happen to us, but that's good that you actually did that. Especially, I'm not saying because like, you know, you're from the Bronx, but like people who's like you're surrounded to, you know, like I was born and raised in the Philippines. I didn't know about business out there. All I know is like go to school, finish college, actually become a nurse, and then come here to America and actually work. That's like my whole generation was like that. My friend's generation was like that. So like it's good that you actually went out there and then continue to pursue like what you dream of.
Yeah, you're right, Sophia, because I could attest to this too. Also, being a product of immigrant parents. My family's from Guyana, which is a third world country in South America, and just like you, they've always said, the American dream is go to school, get your education so you can get that job. So that one day that job could you be in that job 40 years until you retire. But, I think one thing that sets our generation apart from them is that not that the American dream is really a dream, but we also, like growing up and being in the system, being here, you start to see that you don't want to duplicate what they went through. Because sometimes they were too focused on being safe and secure, but there's not really much security out there. And that's what I learned early because of those 3 jobs. You're thinking you're good, you're secure, and then all of a sudden it's like, it's not working out. And it wasn't anything that I did. I wasn't bad. I didn't show up late. I showed up on time, did my job. And there's just nothing of your own doing. You could still lose that job. And so for me, that's when I was like, you know what? Nothing against my mother. I love my mother. She has good intentions for me. But if I have this dream and vision inside of me, and that as much as I try to forget about it, it still keeps calling, tugging at me, I gotta go and take a shot on it. And so I think that's the thing for me, is just I just kept following my heart. But I know that there's a lot of my friends who are entrepreneurs, or they try to be entrepreneurs, they can't get past that first hurdle of what somebody in their family thinks or their friends think, and it stops them. So, for me, I don't know why, I just kept going. And here I am, I'm talking to you on this couch today.
I'm really happy that you actually just take that risk. Also, like, a lot of people is actually talking through social medias and everywhere. Since you actually can learn everywhere now compared to, like, I believe back in the days. I don't really know the whole story from back in the days. Do you believe that your education, not only online, but like, do your college degree matters?
Well, I'm gonna asterisk this because obviously every industry is very different, right? Like I think if you are studying to be a doctor, you need a degree.
Yep.
You should like if I'm going in for surgery, I'm hoping that this doctor's got a degree. That they
not only a YouTube.
No, this is not just YouTube University. So.
Yeah.
But I would say in my particular industry and then where things are now, the degree, you could probably make it happen without a degree. But the one thing that I tell anybody when they're considering going to college, because I teach a filmmaking workshop. It's called Beyond the Lens, How to Sharpen Your Focus, Framing a Vision for Life. It started in middle schools, but then I actually last year just taught my first high school group. And the one thing I always tell them, because they're like, oh, should we just go to college? I was like, look, if you're gonna go to college, I think obviously education is important, but education comes in many forms. Education is not just what you learn in a book, because despite getting my degree, I learned so much more in the field, going out and setting up that camera and then physically doing the work. It was where I learned a lot more. And I'm still learning till today. So what I tell a lot of folks is if you're considering going to college and to further your education, yes, pick a major that's lucrative, that's gonna help you get there, but really focus on networking. Because your network is really what'll open the doors for you. Like for me, when I got my career started and I had to, like I even mentioned with those jobs, they all came from someone I knew in a classroom or that I played together with on a football field. And then even today when I started and running my business, it's the same way. A lot of the business that I get is from referrals. It's from people that I know. People will look at me and say, yo, Kev, I saw you doing your thing. Hey, I know you do this behind the camera, but do you do this? I thought about you for this. So even though I run a digital marketing agency, I get a lot of my leads organically, through who I know. So that's what I tell a lot of people is that, yes, I would never diminish college, but make sure you're going with the right focus, that you're going to not only educate yourself in a classroom, but you go to network and meet the right people, because that's really what's gonna help you to be able to open a door or help you be able to put your skills on display. So make sure you go and you network with folks.
Let me go to a different track of things. Since we already know who you are, what Kevin do, how do you bid like your pricing to your clients?
So that's actually a great question, and I know that's a question that every entrepreneur, freelancer, creative struggles with, because it is a bit nuanced, especially based on your industry, because some industries have certain set rates that you have to work with. But I also do believe in value-based pricing. right? Because not only just saying, oh, I'm going to charge this because this is what the industry charges or what everyone else charges, because you don't want to compete to be the least priced person. Because if you always price yourself cheaply, your clients will always view you cheaply. Like when it's time for you to raise your prices, they're gonna be like, oh, you charged me this before, why should I do it now? So when you're sitting and you want to think about the pricing, think about obviously your skills, where you are in your career, right? Because obviously if you're just starting out, you can't charge $10,000 for something. But if you've been doing something 10, 15 plus years and you know how to get a certain result, you might be able to say 10,000 and somebody may not question you. So definitely take into consideration your skills, your skill level. Take into consideration what is the client getting, right? Many people just want to quote and say, well, I have a bill that's $1,500, so I'm going to charge $1,500. Nah, you have to think about what value you're offering this person. Now, if a client comes and says, hey, I want one video that's, you have to now sit and say to yourself, how long will it take me to deliver and create this one video? So now you got your skills, now you're taking your time into consideration. Okay, well, it might take me X amount of hours to pre-produce. Many creatives in my lane, they forget about that. They only charge for the hours when they're physically holding the camera and they're physically editing. Mm-hmm. But they don't realize in order to get good at something, it's a lot of the work you do before.
Yep.
So, and obviously, over time, the more you do on certain projects, the more you put yourself in different arenas, and you also shift your mindset. Because for me, the biggest shift in my pricing was when I stopped looking at myself as just a freelance videographer. And then I switched and I said, you know what? I'm an executive, I'm an agency, I'm a producer, that I'm not just making a video and handing it to you. Now I'm making this video with the intention that if I make it this way, you're gonna get a certain amount of views. And when you get a certain amount of views, you can get more leads. And when you get more leads, it can lead to more sales. Now it's $10,000 instead of $1,000. So that's what I always tell folks is obviously keep working on your skills. The skills are the most important thing. What is this client, or what are they asking for, right? Like, what are you giving them in exchange? What value are they getting? And then the results. What results are you helping them get? And if you focus on these, I can't tell you directly without, knowing what the scope of the work is, because many people just jump and say, this is my rate, without trying to understand what goes into the work. And I will always tell anyone is get good at asking the right questions. So if somebody comes to you with a project and say, Kevin, we got this new campaign, we're gonna launch a book. Okay, what do you think? Well, first thing, you don't need just one video. You need more than one video to launch a book. You need a series of videos. Now, when we're talking about series of videos, you need graphics. So that means we have to make a logo maybe. Do you have a logo? No. Okay, do you have flyers? So when you start thinking like this, then you can start charging more because you're not just providing one service. So I know it was probably like a long-winded way.
No, because I feel like a lot of business owners actually struggle to actually price their work because sometimes they forget to pay themselves.
Yes.
They could just be like asking for the price for just the certain product or the service they provide, but they never they forgot about, wait, I'm working too.
Yeah.
It's like in a company, they pay us to work, whatever the results come or the deadline, we get paid, right? But working for yourself because you love what you're doing, people actually can get underpaid because they forget to add that. Yeah. So that's good. You're actually explaining to everything.
You hit on the head. Another thing too that a lot of people forget is sometimes they feel like they have to do everything themselves. That's something that I struggled with a long time. Sometimes even now I struggle with it too. If a client comes to me with something and I'm like, you have a whole network of people. I have a team. I have someone who can help me with this. So ask this person, even if it's not a team member or another vendor that you're gonna partner with, ask them, okay, this person needs me to do this. I need an extra set of hands for this. What's your cost? All right, well, Kevin, I'll charge you $1,500. Okay, well, now you got this person's $1,500. Now you can add your price on top of that. So that's something else that people think they forget to, like you said, not only pay themselves, but pay your workers. Think about delegating some things. You don't have to do everything yourself. And when you start thinking like that, that also impacts your pricing as well.
I see. When it comes to workers or another partner or collaborative, right? When do you think is the right time to actually hire somebody or look for someone to be next to you?
That's an interesting question. The right time, I think, obviously everyone is different, but I would say as soon as you start feeling overwhelmed, maybe even before, right? Because capacity is a funny thing. We think that we could do so much, but time moves so fast. So for me, I spent a lot of years doing stuff myself because, I didn't want to pay the extra money. The editor said he's going to charge me $150. Like, just pay the editor $150 so you don't have to spend your time doing that. That you would have took 5 hours to do it, or 10 hours, that you would have paid the guy $150. He would have done it in 3 hours. But yeah, so I would say for anyone who's looking to, expand or like delegate, outsource, I would say sooner rather than later. Because for me, I think it boils down to systems, creating systems and creating habits, right? Like, you don't want to create a habit where you automatically think, I'm going to do it myself. So early out the gate, try to say, you know what, on one project, I'm going to bring in somebody. Even if it's a small project, you think you can handle it yourself, just try bringing in someone else, because that way you can at least start to develop that muscle. Because at some point, your goal is to grow and to expand. So at some point, you're gonna need to outsource and hire someone. Try it earlier rather than later, because then you'll start to see how people work. You start to build up your network of people you can trust, because you don't wanna wait until you have a big project that really matters, and then now you're trying to scramble to find people. You don't know really what their skills are. You don't know if you could trust them, and then you're adding a whole nother set of like stress to yourself. So if the project allows, I would say sooner rather than later, try to outsource, because it's just, that's what bosses do. That's what executives do. You got to think about, when you're running a business, you're not only just the creative with your hands in it, you're also an executive. So try to think from that executive, frame of mind.
And also the budget too.
Of course. And I always say, hey, I'm in the mindset of, raise that budget up. Raise that budget up. But that's also why networking is important. Because like for us, we have tiers of photographers, videographers of all skill levels. Somebody who's worked for 1 year, 2 year, somebody who's done it for 10 years. So now if we got a budget who's like, okay, look, the budget is a little tight, maybe we can give this opportunity to someone who's on the rise. Now, this project has a bigger budget. Okay, now we could bring in that person. So keep building your network, because you're right, every budget is different. But the truth of the matter is, sometimes you do have to roll your sleeves up as an entrepreneur, because sometimes money will be tight, but you got to balance that. You got to figure out and say, is it worth it for me to do this task, or is it worth it for me to just lose a couple dollars, have someone else do it, they get it done faster, my client gets to work faster, but then I get to spend time with my family. I think that's where a lot of people mess up. They forget we're doing this business so that we can have time for the people that we love. But you got to make that time now. Don't sit and say, one day when I'm a millionaire, or one day when I'm a billionaire, I'll spend time with my family. Nah, spend time with your family now, because time is passing, and this is the moments that you're going to wish you had with them.
It's good. You actually know that you need to actually balance life, not always just working. Even you actually love what you do, Like me, I'm like so overwhelmed with like all the work and business I've been doing, and then like one day I'd be like, you know what? I need to balance everybody. Somebody needs to be in schedule. Like, Mom, I'll see you every Sunday at this time. We're gonna go to church, and then later I'm gonna clean the house, and then Monday to Friday work, and then do the business after. It's good that you actually learned that earlier to do balance. I actually have a lot of entrepreneur friends that until now I cannot see them since 2021, because they're doing their business, which I understand them. I'm very supportive friend, but like I can sense like, wait, you're like drowning down there. You kind of like need to get out. But like, I'm not here to just like keep telling them that, but I'm just supporting them. But hopefully you guys are watching this.
If you're watching and you're drowning, you probably need time with your friend Sophia, because that, believe it or not, that 1 or 2 hours that they take to go hang out with you and go grab a bite to eat, laugh or relax, that would recharge you in a way that you can go back and keep working in your business.
I know.
And it's funny, because at this phase of my life too, I've been trying to remind myself more, like, you have to spend time with your family, because my friends, they're having kids, they're getting married and stuff like that, and they're like, they want to see Uncle Kevin. Where's Uncle Kevin? And it's like, what? I got to make time for them, because they're not going to remember. Your niece and nephew's not going to remember that you were out building this business. They're going to remember that you were there for them. And I'm telling you, the times that I'm like, what? I'm not working on Sundays. I'm not working on this day. And then you go hang out with your friends and you laugh until you like crying nonstop. you're just like the next day you're at work, you're like, I could keep going because I can't wait till the next time to go hang out with my friends. So it fuels you. So yeah, you gotta have that balance.
Yep, the balance is actually really important. Oh, also, before we actually end this whole podcast, let's like promote your business and
Yes.
let them know where can they find you,
Yes.
and then your website, and where can they follow you.
Of course. All right, so if you want to check us out, you can check us out at talbotmedia.tv. That's TALBOT media.tv. Well, Sophia, she's gonna put it here at the bottom.
Yep,
for you.
I'm gonna be putting it in.
But you can also follow us on social media. All handles are at Talbot Media. You can follow me personally. I'm at Shot by Smooth. And you can check out our new podcast. Actually, we just launched a podcast. It's called Beyond the Lens, How to Sharpen Your Focus, Framing, and Vision for Life, where it's geared towards creatives and entrepreneurs. So anybody who is feeling stuck in life, you're trying to, gain a little clarity, that's the podcast for you. Because, we mix a little bit of filmmaking, storytelling with some of my life lessons that I've learned over my 15 plus years in media. And you can catch that podcast on any streaming platform, wherever you consume your podcast.
Thank you so much, Kevin. That was fun.
Yeah, so fun. Thank you, Sophia. I appreciate you having me and allowing us to, the floor to share about our mission and purpose here at Talbot Media. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we'll hope to see you in your podcast.
Yes, you will. Maybe you'll be a guest on mine. We'll see.